Welcome everyone. We are super excited to have three of our wonderful and passionate alumni with us today to provide a really unique workshop experience for you. All three of these alumni individuals have had wonderful experiences in their careers, and they wanted to share a little bit about that with you. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to them right now.
Thank you, Randy. So we're focusing on my Ohio State journey and surprise life after graduation. This is from the three of us, Julie Capozzi, Andria Fuquen, and Laura Wall. Julie, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, absolutely. I'm Julie Capozzi. I am VP of Spectre Research Incorporated. It is a government contracting firm that has been around for 30 plus years. And then I'm also, about 4 years ago, I started my own publishing company to go back and utilize my degree from Ohio State, and I am the president of Mudlark Publishing.
Awesome. My name is Andria Fuquen. I'm a technical lead at Nationwide Insurance, but my story is a little bit different. So I graduated in 2008 from Ohio State with a degree in art history. Nothing to do with IT and what I do right now. My focus was on Tibetan Buddhist art, which I loved. This was a point of passion for me. And I did not know where my life was going to go. Graduating in 2008 was another point in time where it was less than ideal to come out into the job market. And I took some time and I actually went through many different areas. I worked in service industry, I worked in retail, which rounded me out as a person and an appreciator of those jobs and industries. But it also kind of helped me know what I want for my future. I then spent 4 years as a nanny in New York City, which was a wonderful time. But it was a lot. I was spending 55 hours a week with 2 little boys under 4 years old, and I sort of found my points of sanity and then a little beyond. And again, I had to sort of see what I was going to do with my career furthermore than just being a nanny. I loved it, but I knew it didn't speak to me for decades on end. So I ended up going to a boot camp for web development here in Ohio, actually in Akron, Ohio. And it was one of those 3-month-long rewire your brain into IT jargon and even coding for Java. And I got a job with Nationwide Insurance. I started as an entry-level Java programmer and have been there ever since. Yesterday was my 5-year anniversary with them, and it's been wonderful. It's been a very meandering career to most, but it has made me a much more holistic thinker and participant in an industry that needs more diversity and more creativity in it. So it's been wonderful to sort of move from entry level on up to being a technical lead in a multi-million-dollar program and learn a lot in the job and sort of just also keep patching my holes that I find as I keep going through it. So that's a bit about me.
Very cool. Thanks everybody for joining us today. My name is Laura Wall. I'm a human resources business partner with Syneos Health here in Columbus, Ohio, just north of the city in Westerville. I'm not from the area, I'm from the East Coast. And I decided to go to the largest university I could find back in 1988 and graduated from Ohio State in 1992, back when we had quarters, so it's been a few years. I fell in love with the English language and majored in English, and then once I graduated, I thought, what am I going to do? I'm not going to go back home. I'm going to stay here and make Columbus, Ohio my life. So I fell into the industry of human resources by accident. Most of us do, by the way. I only know of one other person who actually signed up to work within HR. Everyone else falls in by accident or pleasant surprise. I've worked in a variety of industries. I worked in America Online in internet services. I worked at Abbott Nutrition. I did some work in retail and finance with Alliance Data. And presently I'm working for Syneos Health, which is a combination group, 24,000 people large around the globe. 80% of us are in clinical, 20% are in commercial. So I get to work in the fun side of the business, in advertising on the commercial piece. So if you've seen advertisements for drugs, specifically for oncology, most likely my company was the one that actually put that marketing on. So I get to work with artists, videographers, account people, medical. We have doctors on site that actually speak the language to the client that are medical graduates. So I get to work in a really, really fun space in the area of HR, and try to actually connect and work with people that don't like policies and don't like rules and want to be free and enjoy the idea of working in a healthy, fun environment with a little bit of balance. So out of all the places that I worked previously, they all have one common denominator. I absolutely love people. I love the gift of people. I love learning from people. I don't have a traditional background in business. I learned along the way, but I think my English degree helped me understand how to think analytically and work with people. And that's why I built my acumen over the last 26 years now.
So much like Laura, this is Julie. I come from a very different story background. When I went to Ohio State, it was around the same time that my dad had a dream to start his own business. And I jumped in both feet and was attending Ohio State, but driving back to Dayton to help him get his business off the ground. We're talking back in '89. So we were definitely on quarters back then. And I just grew with the company. My passion for writing never left me, though. And, I would do a lot of editing and a lot of proposal writing, which is not the same as creative writing or, novels and things of that nature. So I still had that in the background of my mind. But as I raised 3 young boys, it came back around and the timing, presented itself, and I jumped back in. But, why? We're here to talk about why an arts and sciences degree. And, for me, when I first headed up to Ohio State, I thought I was going to, go into, some medical field because I had worked in the medical arena for, my high school years, and found very quickly that, my passion was over in journalism with a concentration in advertising. Back then, the viewpoint, and even up to a couple years ago, the viewpoint was just that, we should be focusing in on the math and the science pieces and less on humanities. But, I found in my life and, in that life around me, that the truth is the importance in developing great managers it surrounds itself around arts and sciences. Business leaders need to really recognize and promote the arts and sciences. Why am I saying that arts and sciences play an important role in helping us identify, complex solutions and complex issues? It's because we need us in business. It's super important to have arts and sciences individuals in business. You walk into a room, and I say this all the time to the students, and who do you want to hang out with but the arts and sciences individuals? They're very outgoing. They are very, they speak a lot of truth. They speak from experience, and they're very comfortable in their skin to do so. So the best critical thinkers and problem solvers, in my opinion, that I've worked with, over my career have been people who have a background in the arts. There are no multiple choice or answers, by route for most real problems in business, that we face every day. And so, I can't stress enough, how much I enjoy working alongside, people with the arts and sciences. But with that being said, I also work with a lot of engineers. We are creators. We keep the soldiers safe overseas with a lot of the products that we had. But we've also, like Laura had mentioned, we had touched down in different industries such as the healthcare industry. We had a lot of medical individuals working with us on some projects. Traffic control, we've worked in that industry. So, as inventors, I really appreciate the mindset of the engineer. But at the end of the day, when it comes to marketing the products and, just presentation of these, we tend to lean on the arts and sciences individuals because of our strengths, and as business leaders, we just, we can't let the arts be regulated or, second class or no status. It's, you got to step up and just, keep going forward, because we need graduates who have a combination of the arts and sciences on their resumes. We need to give the arts and sciences education equally footing, with other disciplines. It's just so important to have an appreciation and an understanding for the importance of these individuals on your staff, because they're the ones that get the information out there. They can break it down into layman's terms. There's a lot of times we'll come to the big table, and the engineers will start talking, and it's a little bit over my head, and then I'll say, well, let me bring this back to you, and so that everybody else here can really understand what we're working on. And it's the arts and science person that's able to bring understanding and collaboration around the table. So that's why I feel the arts and sciences degree is so important in every business industry we're currently in today.
I'd like to add that is highly, highly true, where even I'm surrounded by engineers and mathematically inclined individuals, and there is nothing wrong with it. I am in awe of kind of the way that their brains think and kind of work towards it. But there also is often the need to kind of bridge the gap between what they're saying, they're doing, and they're aiming towards, and what business wants. And often there needs to be somebody who can kind of unite both and understand both needs and communicate it, present it. You need to present it to business, you need to present it to leadership, you need to present it to any stakeholder that's in the room that understands why you're asking for help, or you're trying to be innovative to make things work better, faster, and more efficient. And that can only be done when you have enough people at the table to think about it holistically and to communicate that, because it's one thing to have the solution to a problem, it's another to communicate it and proliferate it out.
Well, and there's an accountability factor as an employer, right? So one of the mission statements, if you will, or culture themes, if I had to categorize one, in one of the advertising agencies that I support, is everybody's an idea person, right? So even though you might join the organization as a client services person and you may not think you're creative, if you get invited to a creative wave where you sit down in a conference room with 500 drawings all around all four walls to try to figure out which drawings are going to make the cut to go to marketing, there's the expectation that you have an idea, you have a thought. You may claim, well, I'm a client services person, I don't have creativity. The expectation is everybody does. So you might have a different burst or a different way of creativity from a natural creative person, but the reality is everyone is an idea person. So the expectation across the board, whether you're in medical, account services, copywriting, whatever the case may be, you have something to contribute. So it's about flexing that muscle and being able to help explain, like Andrea had shared earlier, how do I contribute? How do I help, advise an idea or a solution to a stakeholder? Everybody has a different strength on how they bring that to the table. But the reality, I love that statement, everyone's an idea person, because it's the reality, it's the truth. It just looks and feels differently based on your background and your natural DNA.
And if I can jump in there with a little personal side to that too, is, I didn't mention, my dad did pass away back in 2004, and we since my husband and I, who's an engineer, and again, the arts and sciences coming from my side, have continued the company, and we've done very well. But it's interesting now, as a business, and heavily into business, I look back and now you see storyboards being drawn and different characterizations and a lot of visuals going on. And the fact of the matter is, my dad was not only an engineer, but he was also a watercolor artist. Oh. So, going back and, I have these posters, from years ago where he had drawn, different things that you would typically see nowadays on those big whiteboards, so he had already used that. He had already applied that, that could have been a risk factor back in the 90s, and it wasn't. It actually took off, and, I think he would think that was pretty cool, that gift that a lot of arts and sciences students are, bringing in, and not just doing PowerPoints, but in fact having, individuals come in and storyboard, for another understanding of the product that they're putting out there. And I think Andrea and I pulled together some just some different individuals, like, the Starbucks CEO, Howard Schultz, his degree with a BS in communications, Northern Michigan University, 1975, and here's a quote here from him just about, it took him years before he found his passion in life. And that's okay. Everything is going to be fine. You will find that passion. And I assure you, once you grab a hold of that passion, it's going to take off running, because you're going to find that you're going to jump out of bed in the morning. You're going to want to, keep working on that. And that's exactly what happened to me in 2017. And I had to sit my husband down and say, my writing, yes, have been published, for a lot of poetry and that in books. But it's not just a passion. It's not a hobby. It's what gets me out of bed. It gets the skip in my step. And so, just like his quote, it took him years before he found it. But once he found it, hit the ground running, and then, the former Avon CEO, Andrea Jung, she, has a 1979 BA in English literature from Princeton. And, again, heading down a certain path, found a different one, and, just started talking about it with others, that, were like-minded. And that's real important, is finding people that are like-minded, those that are going to lift you up. Because if you're sharing something, chances are you're onto something. And, talking to others, it helps define and helps, bring you down the path to, success, and just, not having to reinvent the wheel by talking to others is real important too. And, for her, she fell in love with business, and the consumer. And it's huge. It's a hit. Everybody, most people know what Avon is. And so I thought it was real important to bring in, those individuals, experiences through, these simple quotes that we've included today. But, moving forward, how do we distinguish, or how do you distinguish yourself from your peers, and, how the College of Arts and Sciences helps that? So, Laura, Andrea, do you want to jump in there?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll take this next one. So I think as an employer, specifically working with an HR, people have the perception or the assumption that it's about recruiting and interviewing and hiring and perhaps, separating from a company. And it's very stressful, right? The work that I do is very complex and very stressful. So I try to take that idea or that experience and minimize it and keep it simple so it's less stressful. When you branch out and you graduate with your degree in arts and sciences, definitely know your skill set and know how to sell it. I say sell carefully because, a lot of us, myself included, I'm not a salesperson. Well, you will become one, because you're going to be your most proficient about your own skill sets. How you leverage it is going to look differently, right? So they're transferable skills. You might graduate with a degree in philosophy. My younger brother did. And my dad kept saying to him, what are you going to do with it? How are you going to translate it? What is going to be your passion? What's your mission? He loved writing. So he got into writing about the topic of philosophy. So you'll find your way, but I think the common denominator that Julie hit on earlier is letting your passion shine. That's going to drive everything. I love approaching a small child who can communicate, and I love asking them, what problems do you want to solve when you grow up? I don't ask them what they want to be when they grow up, because that translates to, what do I need to do to turn off, to keep the lights on and pay the bills? When you ask a child or even somebody in high school, what problems do you want to solve? There comes the passion. That gets their wheels turning. And by that, you're going to capitalize on your skills. If you're good at public speaking, you can tap into a passion where you can leverage that strength. If you're not that great of being a morning person, but you love serving coffee, yeah, you can go work at Starbucks, maybe not for a shift, right? Maybe you come in and you train late night or midday until you build that acumen to be able to eventually convert to first shift and buy your own franchise. I don't know. Throwing ideas out there, but you have to know yourself best. You know what your skill set is. You know how to sell it based on how you communicate that with your peers. So when you enter the workforce and suddenly everyone is pulling together and doing a project, and you're not great at PowerPoint, don't sign up for it. If somebody says, hey, Julie, you want to take this PowerPoint presentation, and it's not really your strength, you might simply say, you know what, why doesn't somebody else, do the PowerPoint, and I can go in behind it and help edit it. That's where my passion is, right? it's a communication and it's a conversation. That's really what it comes down to. Because at the end of the day, you're always selling yourself. You're your own best brand, whether you're looking for a position, whether you're a part of a workforce like I am, whether you're looking for a volunteer opportunity, you know what your skill sets are, but having a deep understanding of what those skills are going to help make it transferable to the passion and that opportunity that you're ultimately seeking. So as an employer, we're looking for competencies, right? And that's how you get the job done. So what you do is the specifics of your background, how you get there, how you communicate. Are you a highly charged individual? Do you love being in front of the client? If you're not a client-facing person and you want to be behind the scenes, talk about that. As a copywriter, I want to stay in copywriting. I don't want to be, an account person. I love sitting there at my computer and cranking it out all night. Perfect. Have the courage and have the communication skills early on so you can help leverage and set that expectation going forward. Communication skills are everything. If there was one takeaway that I wish I had known back when I was in college, is two actually. Number one, you're always on, right? No matter where you go. If you're in line at the coffee house, you're on. You're hearing people talk around you, maybe obviously now during 6 feet with COVID, but you're close enough to be able to understand what's going on. If you hear something about a volunteer opportunity that strikes your interest, it's having the confidence to say, hey, hate to interrupt, but I heard you talking about this opportunity. Is there a way that I can get a link or can I tap into that? It's having that skill set and having that confidence. And quite frankly, you really can't create that muscle until you start practicing it. So communication skills are everything, very, very important. Critical reading and thinking skills. So we have a running joke at the office, right? If you try to come to my office at 8:30 in the morning, nobody will be there. All of my art and creative and copy, even the medical team, no one's there at that hour. However, the finance people are, right? That's the running joke. They'll get there at 7:30 in the morning because they want to get in, do their spreadsheet and get out. They have some degree of critical thinking, of course. However, what the arts and sciences background will do for you is challenge you to think outside of that. So I always have this running joke, if somebody can't really work outside of a standard operating procedure, if it's not in the book, then they can't relate to it. I would challenge you to relate differently, think differently. If you see that there's an opportunity for an improvement in the workplace and you think, well, it's not in the SOP, but how about if we do this? That's part of your critical thinking, which goes back to communication, to go back to your leader to say, hey, I understand that, we have the coffee cart come through here that's free at 8 o'clock, but nobody's here. Is there any opportunity to go ahead and move that free coffee cart till 10:30 or 11 o'clock? It's having a conversation, which goes back to your communication and based on the opportunity to look at something and critically think, how can I make this go from good to great? Analytical skills, right? Being able to come up with solutions and ideas on making your role or your passion rather analytical from a business perspective. So I'm in the business of people, right? I work with people. I love people. I have really good conversations and really tough conversations. I've had to translate that into a business model over time. Some people might have argued, look, you didn't get a degree in HR. You're right. I didn't. I got certified in HR. My degree's in English, and I have a deeper understanding of how to communicate that information when I have a difficult conversation. I know how to read people to be able to have a tough conversation. I had 10 people I had to lay off in April, and I knew one was going to be very, very explosive. And sure enough, it was explosive, but I was able to calm her down. I was able to read Denise and understand what was her trigger point that day, what she needed to do to absorb that very difficult information, and what her next steps were. That was back in October. Well, I take that back. I laid her off in October. I had another layoff in April, and she heard through the grapevine that I was going through another layoff, and she reached out to me privately on text, random, 6 months later, hey, I understand you're hosting another layoff. I'm really sorry about that. I hope your day is better. Hugs. From someone who I laid off 6 months earlier. My point with that story is she understood and we connected. She understood the message was business related. I was able to analyze her skill set, maintain that relationship, keep her whole, keep her good, understand that while it wasn't anything personal, it certainly was personal because it impacted her, but we preserved her dignity. And that she took with her, and she landed another opportunity at Cardinal Health. So it's all holistic, these different pillars that we're sharing with you. And finally, research skills. I mean, definitely do your homework. I mean, arts and sciences people, I don't need to preach to you. You know what's going on. You know what's out there. You do your homework. You have access to social media. I hate to say it out loud, but I didn't have that when I was in college, right? So you have an abundance of online access. You look on Yelp and see where someone has gone for a great breakfast. You do the homework and find out what that place looks like and feels like. Same thing for a job interview, for an opportunity. Do your homework, kind of do research. Go drive by LinkedIn and find out, how many people work at Cardinal Health. Do you have any second or first layer connections? Reach out to that person. Does it feel awkward and weird to say, hey, I know we haven't spoken in 3 years? That's okay. I had a girlfriend of mine from 10 years ago. I hadn't seen her in forever. Send me a text at random. Hey, Laura, this is Tamara. I know we haven't spoken. Hope all is well. Things are good on my end a little bit. I lost my job at Chase. Can you help me out? She just cut right to the chase. Got to the point with her communication skills, and I said, great. Got on the phone with her. What's going on? I assumed it was a reduction. I just assumed they cut her and they gave her a severance. I said, what type of severance did you get? I'm curious. How long are you on the severance package before you actually have to look for work? She said, I'm not. I was cut for performance. Cut to the chase. Love it. She was not afraid to tell me everything about what was going on in her world so I could dive in here and actually ask her the right questions, partner with her, develop her, really dig deep. I assumed it was a reduction, and it wasn't. It was performance. We had a conversation. And now to this day, she's at a different bank doing really, really well. My point with all that is network, start exercising that muscle, work on your communication, understand how you can look at things differently, how you ask really careful questions. Not everything that you see is black and white. Come up with an idea and say, hey, I know we've done this. What about that? How can we do this? Generate that intellectual curiosity, and that's going to help you leaps and bounds as you're looking for an opportunity, in addition as you contribute going forward when you find that passion. So arts and sciences, yes. I had this question, ironically enough, from somebody at a different university just the other day. They were asking us and actually doing their homework on us as Syneos Health, because we want to partner with many colleges and universities. And they were doing their due diligence. I happened to catch her on the phone, and she said, what type of majors are you looking for internships? And I actually had to stop and think, because I thought, well, yeah, we look for marketing, we look for business. But the opportunities that I was throwing out to her were psychology, communications, English. We need writers, right? In the worst way, creative writers. And suddenly when I was making my list for her, it all came back to the College of Arts and Sciences, be that at Ohio State or elsewhere. That's transferable. You may feel like, wow, mom and dad are really asking me, what am I going to do with a psych degree? You're going to learn. You're going to learn as you go. What I love the most about arts and sciences majors is you don't have any bad habits. You can't come to my organization with a bad habit, because guess what? We have a clean slate. We know exactly what your background is. I know what your passion is. Let's leverage you in a position where you're going to succeed. It's having that conversation, raising your hand and saying, you know what? I love communications. I want to do something along the lines of writing. What can I do? Yeah, we're going to give you some entry-level work to cut your teeth in advertising and in healthcare, but you're going to build that muscle as you go. So I personally and selfishly think that arts and sciences gives you that leverage and that grand opportunity to dive into your passion that much easier. If you have an accounting degree, which isn't anything to sneeze at, that's great, but your passion is doing something completely different, you might feel like you have to start over again. And I think the arts and sciences opportunity gives you that huge landscape to capitalize on your passion.
So this is the point where this is kind of giving the information for Barbara and to stay connected with the Arts and Sciences Career Success Group after graduation. It's one thing to get up to graduation and through it, and that is very applaudable. It's huge. It's a major thing. But don't forget that there is a whole network and support system that carries you through on afterwards, and that you have worked a lot and that there are those that support you.
Absolutely. And ask for help, ask for feedback, connect with people, make those mentors and proteges relationships. I think erroneously when I entered college, I thought, all right, I've got one job to graduate in 4 years. My brother's behind me. I'm already charging out-of-state fees. I have one job, and I stayed focused to get out, not realizing the opportunity that I needed a network. I needed to have a deeper understanding, ask those, difficult questions. Now it's natural because that's how I'm wired, but I'm a late bloomer. So I would just strongly advise, get started early, flex that muscle, and build that acumen because you will be needing it throughout your career.
And like Laura had mentioned earlier that, her her takeaways, or the top two takeaways from, being at Ohio State back in the 90s. My top one is also, you're always on. Keep that in your back pocket. You are always on. But my second one was more know your audience. And this was pre, social media, and now even more so with, being so knee deep in intelligence and things like that, with working with social media and the intelligence group, you are always on, okay? And you have to know your audience. Definitely always go back and take a peek at who do you have in your LinkedIn, what is their purpose for wanting to connect with you? So there's a protection side to that too. But from what Laura was explaining before, you want to have that conversation. So it is okay to put some things out there, on your LinkedIn to get a conversation going, because we are arts and sciences and we can present things very well on a social media platform, but even more so when you get in front of an individual and have that conversation. They can see it immediately, if you've got those skills. And if they see skills that you can work upon, again, like Laura said, ask about that. How do I do that? And that's where Barbara, the career coach, comes in.
And we have a mentorship program. A variety of companies do. Ours is a little bit more informal, but I encourage people, if you're in the account services and you're trying to leverage a skill that really isn't a demand of your role, but you notice somebody else across the room who's in creative, who's really skilled at that, ask for the help. Hey, listen, I noticed you're really good at writing, not my strong suit. Can I partner with you, and would you be willing to mentor me, a couple times a month for the next 6 months? Be very specific in your ask. Be mindful. Again, Julie hit on it perfectly. Know your audience. I get hits all the time on LinkedIn. Hey, I need a job. Okay. Kind of tell me what you're looking for. How can I help? I'm not saying butter me up, but I'm saying maybe you can help have that conversation by saying, hey, I noticed you used to work at Abbott for 7 years. Wow, what was that experience like? Do you mind if I borrow 15 minutes of your time to ask you a few questions? Now you're getting specific. Now it makes sense. Now that's triggering my radar. Now I get it, which is perhaps a little bit more flattering for a long-term relationship where I can help this person versus, hey, I need a job in working for, Similac. Okay, I can do that. I can help out, but it's about your presentation and how you present yourself. Different topic, different workshop, but something to consider.
I agree. And one of the I think greatest joys about being a career coach is that being a part of the arts and sciences, regardless of what your major is, you have all of these options. And so it's so interesting when you get a student that comes in and their major is English or their major is psychology, and they're like, I don't know what I want to do with my life. Well, you can do anything, So that is, as opposed to, and again, as you had stated before, there's nothing wrong with having, a major in accounting or engineering, anything like that. But those are seemingly like direct paths. Whereas, you come in with a career coach, we can explore anything. And that, I think, gives them a little more flexibility about their future and some hope, as opposed to, I can't find a job in this. Someone said that if I get a bachelor's in psychology, I can do nothing with that. I'm like, no, that's not true. So that they know what those other options are, those are some, great conversations that I get a chance to have with students. And I think that being specific in your ask, I was trying to send my comment in, is that that's what's most important when they are sending that cover letter, when they are having that conversation with recruiters, and, even when they sit across from me, and it's, what is it that what is it that you want when you go reach out to somebody on LinkedIn? Why should they respond to you if you don't know what you want? So that was really good. I'm going to be taking all of you all's quotes. They're going to be in my very next appointment, just so you know.
I think the other thing that's been really important and something it took me a long time to learn was to remove fear from the equation as much as possible and lean on those around you. Because I remember when I first started, I started as a pre-med at Case Western. And my father was very proud of me because he knew that there was a guarantee of certain things. There was a lot of solidity in that option. Then I changed my mind midway through my first semester, and I went to art history. And everybody looked at me like I was the insane person of the family. And everyone was like, what are you doing? Your career, how are you going to make a living? All of these questions. And it was very, I think people do it out of love. People respond differently out of love. Sometimes there's the fear factor that kind of comes in and shines before they say, I still love you and I'm proud of you for what you're going to do. But remove it, because then you'll see that there are so many things that you can do. And even when I was still thinking I was going to carry on in art history, I said I could curate for a museum. I can be a purchaser for different people. I can catalog things for, the philanthropists of the world. There are so many things that can be done. It's just kind of where you apply your creativity, and feel free to look and search out. And I think career coaches are phenomenal for that. And also practice having the difficult conversations that you would in an interview. I think this was one thing I appreciated that I had in the boot camp where I went to for programming. One of the guys that was one of our teachers kind of took it very seriously. He's like, I want to ask you all the very difficult questions now, so that when you do go to the interview, you are exceptionally comfortable and you can voice it confidently with a cadence that makes them understand that you are confident. And it was from like what you want in the job to the technical side of tell me that you can demonstrate you understand this fundamentally. So it was hugely helpful to know that and have people around that could support me in this search for what was bound to be a next chapter. It wasn't the entire chapter of my life, but it's the next one, and each one's going to build upon itself.
Practice is everything.
Exactly.
Yeah. Practice is everything.
No, exactly. And just to go off of what Andrea said, take those uncomfortable situations, take those opportunities, because I feel the more uncomfortable a situation, the more important the takeaway lesson is. Really take stock in what is true, about yourself, about your abilities, and embrace the idea just of limitless potential. It's okay to rewrite the script. It's okay to start here, but end up somewhere else. For Andrea and I both, my degree was journalism, advertising, but I also wanted a family, and, it led me into business, and I did all the marketing in that for a small, business that I'm still, part of today. Just take stock in who you are, and you have so many abilities, and reach out to Barbara, reach out to Randy, reach out to the Career Success Group. There are so many amazing programs that you may, go over there to take a peek at for yourself, but then end up finding out that, hey, something you've done in your past, Randy may ask you, hey, I'd love you to lead. So as an alumni, stay involved, give back. It doesn't always have to be through the checkbook. It can be through just coming and interacting and bringing your experiences back to the table. Again, don't reinvent the wheel. Let's help each other.
Well, celebrate along the way. Yeah, celebrate along the way. Don't beat yourself up. It's a journey, right? And no 2 days are ever alike. And there's going to be opportunities where you're going to get maybe perhaps passed over for an opportunity or promotion. It's all good learning. It's all very good learning. I had an intern 3 years ago go through our program, and at the end of the internship, we hosted an exit interview with him. And his last question to me was, what could I have done differently? Give me the feedback. He was very authentic and very honest at a very young age to even ask, what did I not do great? Where could I have learned? And I thought that was really, really compelling. Fast forward to the present day, he's one of our account executives on the very, very big brand for Navicor. So those are the types of things that, yes, it's clunky along the way and it feels weird, but I would strongly encourage you to celebrate as you go because you have your whole life ahead of you. And you're not going to cram it all in by Friday. So enjoy the journey while you have it.
Exactly. And, that's the one thing, my interactions with the students, at Ohio State, is that I tell them, really trust your instincts, because, 99.9% of the time they are right on target for what you're looking for. And, at the end of the day, you are on, and you are selling, so to speak, yourself to get to that point that you want to reach and really impact others. So, moving forward, what is our advice to stay focused while you're earning your degree, and how to keep your focus after graduation? Andrea, you want to try this one?
Yes, as soon as I take myself off of mute. No, I think it's really important to sort of get a picture of what you're going to do now and carry it forward into the future. So kind of like we're saying, that balancing work, school, and personal life, it's a lot. Even just as a student, it tends to be quite the juggling act. And we completely respect it and want you to kind of remember to make time for those that you love and maintain your job performance while taking classes. And that it may seem hard to juggle all of these things, but we sort of categorized it into these 3 things that will help. So plan ahead, set a timeline for completing your degree, and make a note of the obstacles that you may face. Priorities, remember that you can make changes in your lifestyle to prioritize the essentials. It's all organic, but if you sort of have these milestones ahead to work towards, it helps you to feel like every day all of these little pieces are building up to something. It may change and kind of readjust throughout time, but you have a target in mind. Make a schedule, and this may sound very nerdy, but it's actually very important, because time is a luxury, and you will learn this for the rest of your life, that it is gold. It is the thing that you are being paid for. It is also the thing that you like to enjoy yourself or with friends. So use it wisely and invest it wisely. Create a plan around, but allow yourself to move things around. Give yourself enough time to get everything done. Balance the different parts of your life. Balance is the most difficult thing, but the most important thing also going forward in your life. And it's forever a dance that you're going to try to find this balance with everything. And sleep. Get enough sleep. This is what will allow you to have perspective on what's going on. It will not create too much panic or too much reticence towards what's going on. You will have a very different perspective if you wake up, you're physically refreshed and you're mentally and emotionally refreshed. Each day will be better, and you will be much more efficient with it. So also be realistic with your time commitments. Don't overbook yourself. And I think, as many of us know Ohio State, like, there is a huge social side to the school and everything going on. But one thing I do want to kind of highlight is that make sure that everything else has been prioritized accordingly. And later in life, after you get your job and after everything, there's going to be a ton of socializing and parties that you'll get to go to, and they will actually be better. There'll be better food and better drinks once you have a professional life, because your network will grow and become bigger and better. So I want to talk about personal focus and then professional focus. And first, in the personal focus, finances. This is something that if you gain a sense of and can have your brain wrapped around, you will live a healthier, more stable life forever. Just keep your mind on it. Evaluate your finances. They can get much more complicated after graduation. So once you understand them now, it's going to be a lot easier. And avoid living beyond your means. Pay very important expenses first. There's a ton of stuff, like we were saying, about social media, YouTube. There's magazines. There are plenty of articles out there that can be very short, succinct, and give you ideas of what to do, how to plan for your future, and keep your retirement in mind. I think the other thing that we're seeing with everything going on with the world and COVID is to make sure that you can save. It's a hugely important thing, because when you go out and you do look for a job and you get some sort of income, you also want to make sure that you prepare for the moments that maybe the rug gets pulled out from under you and you are prepared to handle that. Set goals. These are huge. Create a big picture of what success means to you. And you can sort of ask your questions like, do you want to work for a specific company? Do you want to get married? Do you want to have children? Do you want to own a home? These will help define where you're going and also set in mind also your finances that will match and help you get there sooner. Your goals should be based on what you want and reflect it. And stay connected, much like we've been talking about. Join the Ohio State University Alumni Association, continue to make connections with other Buckeyes. But something that I have also loved is that this is a large university, and that you'll always find other Buckeyes, whether they're at the airport or they are at a restaurant next to you or driving along the road because you see their bumper stickers, or you're in another country, or even at the place that you work. We are everywhere and feel like you are part of a very large organism that spans across the world. It's wonderful to sort of see and participate with. But there's always ways that you can leverage it and help people or ask people for help. And contributions don't always have to be monetary. I really appreciate that because there is a lot that we can do as a community that's bigger and better than just simply monetary contributions. So professional focus. Brand, cultivate a brand. And Laura was talking about this a lot earlier. And, you know, you're always on, you may talk to somebody one evening out at a, dinner and realize that they may pull you in and hire you somewhere because they love the story that you told them that evening. That happened to me. Think beyond your wardrobe and create a holistic personal image. I think that when you're at work, the way that you respond to emails, the way that you talk in a meeting, when you show up to a meeting, are you on time? Are you flustered? And how you use people's time as well is very, very important. And this demonstrates your brand. Whether you know it or not, it is very much who you are and how you're being perceived as. And great first impressions rule everything. Whether, again, you're grabbing coffee, you're in the interview, you're doing anything. It means a lot how you interact and present yourself because that sets the tone for the kind of respect you're giving, and we'll get back. Your resume, update it. And this is something going forward that I've learned, incrementally update it because then it doesn't become this giant project and thing to do. And there's a lot of resources at Ohio State where they can help you do it, look at it, revise it, give you feedback, and then have it grow and become something that's really something that you're proud of. When you're starting out, it probably shouldn't be longer than a page, especially for entry level. And then but you want it to be succinct. I think that's something that's very helpful because it shouldn't be paragraphs on paragraphs. It's succinct, it's legible, and it definitely reflects you. A cover letter is often you'll see on job descriptions, not necessary, but still do it. It's a great habit to have. A follow-up letter and thank you, again, don't seem absolutely necessary, but they are incredibly necessary. They demonstrate who you are and they help you kind of create a lasting impression. Maybe you didn't get this particular job, but somebody may keep you in mind for something else later and reach back out to you because they know that you were genuine and you cared. I thought it was very interesting. So I have interviewed well over 20 people throughout the 5 years I've been at Nationwide. And it's been always difficult and wonderful to sort of read through resumes because this is your one snapshot of an individual. So make sure that it conveys you, but it also is a truth to who you are, where you're going, and what you want to do. In your career, you'll find a job and the career path, make sure that you're open to different opportunities. We are very lucky that we have long lives here. And there are many different things that you might find yourself doing and be open to whatever that may be. It's a long journey and keep an eye on new skills that can help you progress. And also know that employers do provide educational assistance. For me at Nationwide, we do provide something called the 5250. So every year as an associate, you get $5,250 to apply towards your education. You can go to get a master's degree if you want. You can get certifications. It does have to be approved and kind of align with you and what your career development is, but it's wonderful to know that your employer will invest in you. So make sure that this is something that you keep doing. I, this year, attended a virtual conference. So I was able to look and sort of see that there's something there that will help me be a thinker and part of my industry. And this was more of a short-term one, but it will help long-term because you can say that you're participating and taking advantage and being part of your profession bigger and deeper. So, question. Any questions?
No, you guys were amazing.
Did you like it?
Oh my gosh, you guys are, I want to work wherever you guys work.
Very good.
Everywhere. You guys are amazing. I wish I knew you guys when I was in college. Wow.
Good.
I'm sorry, my
Well, it's
internet
easy
keeps
when
going in and out.
it helps when you speak from, from where you are. I mean,
Right.
this group of ladies, I'm so blessed to have them on my committee because, Andrea came through from Dennis, Laura and I happened to meet them face to face, and your ladies are an inspiration, and it's just so nice to, have my feelings resonate with others, and just, I want to inspire these students to keep going because, right now it is such a peculiar time, and a lot of them are struggling. And, some of them are our babies, Randy, that have come through and, they were offered that dream job. And then with COVID, the dream job is gone. So some of them are entering the master's program, which is great, but they still, they're still crying for what was supposed to be, right now. And so if we can figure out a way to get this information in their hands, everybody needs a kind word. Everybody needs to pick me up in their day. And that's what we're here for. We share a common bond of the Ohio State University and the amazing staff there and the alumni that are all around the world. So if you guys have ideas, please float them over because we've got to get this information out there to them. And, and the ones that are coming in, let them know we're here. And, we definitely are here to help, lift their morale and get them where they want to go, and it's okay, if one door closes, there's always another one open, and behind that door is most likely a Buckeye to help them along.
That's true.
Agreed.